aren't I paying for this meal with the devil's money? We're using it. We have to use it.
How do we escape it? And the current answer is crypto.
Her answer is crypto. Yeah.
Sorry? Okay, so first of all, you said that name is on the headstone. Well, that's because you're dead. And when you're dead, you don't have any rights, right? I mean, you don't need them. You're dead.
Yeah.
And so you're gone somewhere else. So, I think that's obvious to me. Everything's a fraud. I mean, yeah, I use their fake money, but I only use it because I have to, because that's what these guys want here. And so I always put in my videos, and you'll see today, I say that I prefer gold and silver coin, but as an extremely less desirable alternative, I can accept the fake money, but I'm calling it fake. And so I'm saying that's under protest, basically. And there's a 1873 Supreme Court case, U.S. versus Carlisle, where the Supreme Court said, everyone and everything not privileged is sovereign. So, matter of fact, I was preparing a response today to the State Bar of Texas because they're calling me a sovereign citizen. And I'm getting ready to break it off in their ass. That's what I'm getting ready to do.
So that if you look up the word citizen means municipal servant.
I've heard all that stuff, and that's I'm the one that's speaking right now. I've heard all that stuff, and I'm familiar with it. But the argument that I'm using is that Congress in 1940 did a House Joint Resolution. But first of all, before I get into that, that's part of my presentation today, okay? So let's not get sidetracked. What I wanted to bring up today, at the very beginning, before I get started into the presentation, was an email I got from somebody today. I was helping them with a case they had in Pennsylvania. And I think that the reason I want to tell you this is because I think that because Trump is in office and his big one of the things that he was doing, I think that Trump was invited. There's no doubt that Trump was invited by the military to run. And I think that his job was to jerk the chain of the deep state and get them to expose themselves. And he's really good at that, He's kind of got an abrasive personality, and people don't like him because of it. And so they're already expecting to get their chain jerked, and so then he's really good at jerking their chain, and so that's what he's been doing for the last 4 years. Anyways, so this is a lady in Pennsylvania that I helped her. She had a hearing. I helped her file a challenge to jurisdiction, and I told her to take an order in for the judge to sign. And this is the email that she sent me. Okay, I'll read it to you. This is, in my opinion, this is an example of regime change. Okay, because now Trump is in office, things are starting to change. So let me read it. It says, "Sir, today was amazing. The judge in plain clothes who waited till the robe judge, who oversaw all the others' presence for a hearing, stepped down and exited. He walked up to his chair. By the time I got to question 2, is this a court of record? Is the recording system on? He became enraged, began screaming, 'Get her out, out, get her out.' And with that, I exited the courtroom. I filed all the documents with the clerk of the courts, timestamps the documents before I even went to the hearing. So that's what should happen, okay? Nelson talked about where they said, I think they said the Constitution doesn't apply in my court.
Municipal court, yes.
Yeah. So they should have thrown him out. That's what they should have done. And so, and now there's some. That's what they did with her. They threw her out. Get out of here. So obviously the case is dismissed now too, right? Think about it. And so that's what's supposed to happen. And so it's happening in Pennsylvania already. Okay. stuff is happening. Okay. Anyways, so this presentation today is about property taxes in Texas. We've had everything up till now has been some preliminary stuff. It's been actually I've been live streaming it all along. Let's look at the live stream. There was a question up at the beginning, talked about Eddie Craig and Rule of Law Radio. Yes, I know Randy Kelton. I talk to him quite often. I haven't met Eddie Craig, but they're brilliant, but they're strictly statutory. But they are brilliant, and they have a lot of really good information. There's no doubt about it. And then now there's a comment here, private properties under core issues, which is out of their jurisdiction. Yeah, you have to have an Article 3 court. There's lots of court cases that talk about it. For the core issues, life, liberty, and property has to have an Article 3 court ruling. And in fact, in my case that I had, I went and brought it as a void judgment. I brought it as a collateral attack in the federal court to I brought a collateral attack in the federal court. I told them it's a collateral attack based on a void judgment, and I told the judge that this is not an Article 3 court, but I require you to regulate your property, and so it's a demand for relief. I call it a demand for relief, and I require you to regulate your property under Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2. And there's actually court cases to say that the federal courts are not Article 3 courts, that they're Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2, Congress's courts, which is really executive agency. Anyways, I go into that, but that's what we're talking about today is land. And so let's get going. First of all, I'm not a liar. Well, I'm in a lawyer. No, I'm in a liar. You should never take my word for anything. You should always do your own research. I've provided references to aid you in your research, but I don't know everything, and I'm open to any ideas. There's 4 types of people you'll meet in your life. There's the people who try to wake up the slaves. There's the slave masters. There's the people who have no idea they're slaves. And there's the people who like being slaves. Which one are you? Do you really know for sure? Are you who you think you are? If you can see through the illusion, then you are the solution. If the people do not know their basic rights and freedoms, how can they know when or if their rights and freedoms are being infringed? Never forget the men who started this country were marijuana-growing, whiskey-drinking, tax-evading rebels who left their beds at night to shoot at the cops. And that's where they were. Think about it. All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. I don't trust the government. I don't trust the medical, pharmaceutical, industrial complex. I don't trust the military industrial complex. I don't trust the mainstream media. I don't trust the bankster criminal cabal that owns the government, owns the medical, pharmaceutical, industrial complex, owns the military industrial complex, and owns the mainstream media. And if you call me a conspiracy theorist, I don't trust you. Government's not force. It's not eloquence. Like fire, it is force. Like fire, it is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. So we're all products of the government's educational system. The government's taught us what we need to know to operate in their system, but have they taught us everything? So this is an act making further provision for the sale of public lands, which was approved April 24th, 1820, at Volume 3, 16th Congress, at 3 Stat 566. And it says that being further enacted that credit shall not be allowed for the purchase money on the sale of any of the public lands which shall be sold. So my contact information is sovereigntyinternational.wordpress.com. My website is sovereigntyinternational.fyi. My email address is engineerwin@yahoo.com. My YouTube profile is Sovereign Living. My Facebook community page was deleted due to censorship on the part of Facebook. My private group on Facebook is being deleted. Quite frankly, I haven't been to Facebook in months, maybe years. I'm not interested in going there. What I need to do is ban everybody off of that group and then delete the group, because otherwise Facebook's going to make money off it. and there's 17,000 people on there, and that's huge. They go and make it really difficult to ban people off of there. They don't make it difficult, but there's like about 5 steps you have to do. Every one of them. Anyways, my freelist group, private group, is called Administrating Your Public Groups, my public servants, and my Google private group is called Administrating Your Public Servants. Follow me on Steemit at Sovereignty International, BitChute at Sovereignty International, How To, Sovereignty International, and Truth Social at Engineer Win. I deleted my Cricket or my X profile. They were messing with me, so I just deleted it. So this is Senator King of New York, back when we had good senators. March 1820, during the passage of the Act for the Sale of Public Lands. It was calculated to plant in the new country a population of independent, unembarrassed freeholders, that it would place in every man the power to purchase a freehold, the price of which could be cleared in 3 years, that it would cut out speculation and monopoly, and it would prevent accumulation of alarming debt, which experience proved never would and never could be paid. So this is a case back in 1863, Wallace versus Harmstead, Supreme Court. We're then to regard the revolution in these acts of assembly as emancipating every acre of the soil of Pennsylvania from the grand characteristic of the feudal system. Even as the lands held by the proprietors themselves, they held them as other citizens held under the Commonwealth, and that a title purely allodial. All our lands are held mediately or immediately of the state by titles purged of all the rubbish of the Dark Ages, excepting only the feudal names of things not any longer feudal. Under the Acts of Assembly I've alluded to, the state became a proprietor of all lands, but instead of giving them like a feudal lord to an enslaved tenantry, she sold them for the best price she could get and conferred on the purchaser the same absolute estate she held herself. And these have been reserved as everything else has been granted by contract. So they're talking about land titles in Pennsylvania there, aren't they? After the American Revolution, lands in this state, Maryland, became allodial, subject to no tenure nor to any services incident thereto. From what source does the title to the land derive from a government spring? In arbitrary governments from the supreme head, be he the emperor, king, or potentate, or by whatever name he is known, in a republic from the law making or authorizing to be made, the grant or sale. In the first case, the party looks alone to his letters patent. In the second, to the law and the evidence of the acts necessary to be done under the law, to a perfection of his grant, donation, or purchase. The law alone must be the fountain from which the authority is drawn, and there can be no other source. The land patent is the minument of title, such title being absolute in its nature, making the sovereigns absolute freeholders of their lands, on their lands. Finally, the patent is the only evidence of legal fee simple title. And that's 1837. So then we got to look back at history. So what happened? The southern states walked out of Congress. Congress failed to have a quorum, could not conduct business. Under executive authority on the 15th of April, 1861, notice the date, Lincoln ordered Congress to reconvene at 12 Stat 1258. On the 5th of August, 1861, Congress passed an act to provide increased revenue for imports to pay interest on the public debt for other purposes. And I've actually got that act pulled up here. This is it right here. Let me just show it to the people online. Nope, that's not it. There we go. So why is that not coming out there? Oh, there we go. So this is the Act of Congress that was passed in 1861. And if you look, it talks about sugar and all sorts of stuff. Licorice root, 1 cent per pound. Mace and nutmeg, 25 cents per pound. Talks about a bunch of taxes. But ad valorem taxes and duties on certain imports. And then you go on, section 6, section 7, and then it's done by apportionment. So each state is apportioned a certain amount of money to raise to pay interest on the debt. And then it goes into, and that for the purpose of assessing the above tax and collecting the same, the President of the United States is hereby authorized to divide respectively the states and territories of the United States and District of Columbia into convenient collection districts, and to appoint an assessor and collector to each district who shall be freeholders and resident within the same. And section 10, before any collector shall enter upon duties of office, he shall execute a bond. And he's got an oath of office. And then here in section 12, it says to require after and concerning all lands, lots of ground, improvements, buildings, dwelling houses made liable to taxation under this act by reference. The said direct tax laid upon this act shall be assessed and laid on the value of lands, lots, grounds, improvements, dwelling houses, which several articles include a taxation enumerated value in respect of assessors. So they're talking, again, there's talking about land. So this is where it started. Penalty for disclosing fraudulent. This whole thing is 22 pages, so there's quite a bit of stuff here. But anyway, so this is where it all got started. And so back to the actual, so I'm looking at the comments on YouTube right now. You can hear me now, I think. I'm right here next to the computer. So anyways, let's keep moving. So the 7 states walked out of Congress on August 5th, 1861. Congress passed an act to provide revenue. So you got to understand they're operating under executive authority. And they've been operating under executive authority ever since. So at 12 Stat 296, Section 9, they're talking about tax assessors and collectors. Section 10, they're required to execute a bond. These are all stuff we looked at in the actual act. They have an oath of office. Section 11, Secretary of the Treasury to provide regulations. Section 12. Okay, that brings in the IRS. Really, it's where it falls under is Title 26 of U.S. Code. Direct tax on lands and lots of ground in Section 13, and there's a Board of Assessors, Section 25. Tax liens in Section 33, every collector shall exercise and be guilty of any extortion or oppression under color of this act shall be liable. At Section 43, a penalty for taking a false oath. Section 47, there shall be allowed in full compensation for their services a commission. At Section 48, so they get a piece of the action of whatever they can collect. That's where the motivation is, to basically engage in theft if they can get away with it. So, and then there's an act to secure homesteads. This was done in 1862. Be it further acted, a person applying for the benefit of this act shall, upon application to the Register of Land. So there's some of these you'll see homesteads out there, and they're not the same as a land patent, and they're for U.S. citizens. You got to understand that's a privilege. Okay, it's a benefit of this act. That's a privilege. Copies of these documents can be found on my website. For a complete set of YouTube videos with private information shares, a DVD with over 150 searchable law dictionaries and other books and forms, contact me privately at engineerwin@yahoo.com. And this is the statement that I was talking to Jason here recently. Donations to support this work are appreciated. I prefer gold or silver coin, but as an extremely less desirable alternative, I can accept the IOUs, the Federal Reserve notes, checks, money orders, etc. Send me an email for a particular. So I'm not saying I want the Federal Reserve notes. I'm only taking them because I got no choice. It's coerced. So this is talking about the Homestead Act, that no lands acquired after such provision of this act shall in any event become liable to the satisfaction of any debt or debts contracted prior to the issuing of the patent. A person is only a fictitious entity. This is 25 February 25th, 1871. I'm not sure if that was before the act creating the corporation for the District of Columbia or not, but it says, be it further enacted that all acts hereinafter passed, and the word person may be extended and be applied to bodies politic and bodies and corporate. Okay, so that means they are bodies politic and corporate. An act concerning the construction statutes. This was Arizona statutes. Actually, is New Mexico. But see, what happened is they did it in New Mexico, and then Arizona adopted everything because Arizona was split off from New Mexico. It was originally New Mexico included Arizona. Section 1, 6, the word person may be extended to bodies politic and corporate. Okay, and so that was in 1851, Santa Fe, New Mexico. And so, and then the Arizona statutes, this is 37th Congress, 12 Stat, 1863. So then it says, together with all legislative actments of the territory of New Mexico not inconsistent with the provision of this act are hereby extended to and continued in force in said territory of Arizona. So Arizona at that time was split off from New Mexico. Arizona didn't become a state until 1907, I think. When used in this title, this is 26 U.S. Code 7701. When used in this title, were not otherwise distinctly expressed or manifestly incompatible with the intent thereof, the term person shall be construed to mean and include an individual, trust, estate, partnership, association, company, or corporation. So include, first of all, include means it's limited. It's limiting, okay? Include doesn't mean there's not something there. There's something there that's not written there. Include means it's only those things, okay? And so, and under a justum generis, and I'm not sure if I have a justum generis in here, but under the maxim of law called a justum generis, when they list some things in a definition section, that they're all the same type of things. In other words, because they're listing trusts, estates, partnerships, association, then an individual is a fiction. Okay, that means a minor estate, actually, is what that means. Anyways, check out my other videos: Bankster Thieves playlist, Roman Cult playlist, Bankrupt Corporate So-Called Governments, Bar Members 1 through 12, Do-It-Yourself How Not to Volunteer for the Selective Service in the Draft, Martial Laws Here, Do-It-Yourself No Income Tax, Do-It-Yourself Free Mail, Do-It-Yourself Kangaroo Courts, and Canada Border Pigs playlist, Bar Members and Their Satanic Connections playlist. So then what happened is in 1876, so, what happened is in 1861, the Civil War was going on. The Union Army invaded Galveston, Texas in 1861. So it was, Texas was obviously not going to be going along with anything that passed by Congress at that time. So by the time the war was over, the Texas legislature, or the U.S., went and brought martial law into Texas, and so then reconstituted the Texas government with a provisional government, like they do when they go international law. It's a provisional government, and then they hold elections, and you get the real government. And so when the Texas legislature reconvened, and this is an act of the Texas legislature in 1876. An act defining what money and property is subject to taxation or exempt, and the mode and listing the same, August 21st, 1876. And I also have that one here too. That one's right here. This is found in the Gamma Law books. And so I'm just going to share that right there. So let's look on the YouTube live stream. Yes, it's there. Okay, this is the act in 1871 that talks about the, so it says here, All real and personal property in this state, the property of corporations now existing or may hereafter be created, or the property of all banks, banking companies now existing, or may hereafter created of all bankers, except what is expressly exempted. Okay, so it's corporations and bankers, right? All real property for the purpose of in this state. This is where they use the phrase "in this state," and that's actually found in Texas codes. There's a lot of states that like using this phrase in their codes. Remember, they're all civil laws. They can't violate right of blood, and so "in this state" is used there. So, but let's go back to the PowerPoint presentation, and we'll continue on there. So so this is section 1. That all real and personal property in this state, the property of corporations now existing or may hereafter be created, or the property of all banks, banking companies now existing or may hereafter be created, and all bankers. So that's all that's listed here. There's nothing else, okay? And then it goes on. In section 4 of that act, it says the term person, whenever used in this act or any other act regulating the assessment and collection of taxes, shall be construed to include firm, company, and corporation. That's it. Nothing else there, just firm, company, or corporation. Okay? That does not talk about people. In case you need me to expand upon that. That's firm, company, or corporation. That's fictitious entities.
Name in all caps.
Sorry?
They're going to address you as the name in all caps, and that's a corporation.
I understand. That's why I'm suing them right now. And that's the minor estate. And I'm telling the federal court that I want that thing dissolved and liquidated. Anyways, so include or the participial form thereof is defined to comprise within, to withhold, to contain, enclose, comprise, comprehend, embrace, involve. Okay, that's Montello Salt versus Utah, U.S. Supreme Court. Include, this is American Dictionary of English Law, Noah Webster, 1828. To confine within, to hold, to contain, as a shell of a nut includes the kernel. A pearl is included in a shell, but in these senses we're more commonly used enclose. To comprise, to comprehend, to contain. And then Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition, same thing. Include, to shut in, to keep within, to confine within, hold as an enclosure, take in, attain, shut up, contain, enclose, comprise, comprehend, embrace, involve. And they're actually quoting a Oregon court case. So include is limiting. That means that's all it is, just that. In this state, means, and this is the current Texas tax code, okay? In this state means within the exterior limits of Texas and includes all territory within these limits ceded to or owned by the United States. And that's it. There's nothing else, okay? That means that and I don't think I've heard that there's no land in Texas that was ceded to the United States, but the U.S. probably does own a bunch of land, like Fort Hood, for example. And so there's a lot of land that the U.S. probably owns, but it's not been ceded to the United States. Yeah, national parks. There's a lot of national parks even. And so, but I'm not sure if that's owned. They say that a lot of these national parks have been turned over to the UN because of the debt. Yes. I don't know. But anyways, so in this state, and this is kind of small, and I've got a whole bunch of stuff I put in my federal case right now. This is just a small part of it. Matter of fact, what I think I'll do, no, I think I'll keep that. But because, so when they use that phrase "in this state," what that's saying is that it's only in federal areas of Texas. So that's a little bigger. Oh, that's too big. So, anyways, an assistant prosecuting attorney is licensed to practice law only in federal areas of Texas. And this is taken from Texas Government Code, section 41.103. It says an assistant prosecuting attorney must be licensed to practice law in this state. and shall take the constitutional oath of office. All judges practice law only in federal areas of Texas. And this is taken from Texas Government Code 54A.003. To qualify for appointment as an associate judge under this chapter, a person must, 1, be resident of this state and in one of the counties the person will serve. 2, be licensed to practice law in this state for at least 4 years. And so, and then all bar members are allowed to practice law only in federal areas of Texas. And this is taken from Government Code 82.004, Board Duties. The Board of Law Examiners, acting under instructions of the Supreme Court, as provided by this chapter, shall determine the eligibility of candidates for examination for a license to practice law in this state. And so, and then all juries are only in federal areas of Texas. That's why they can only give you a jury trial. Think about it. It's when you demand a trial by jury, they can't do it. And Darren and I had a judge actually say that we can't give you a trial by jury. All we can give you is a jury trial. Yes, Ned.
Judges, federal territories, that gold French flag.
Absolutely.
Bar members.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We got to be able to start telling the barman to get out of here.
So all juries are only for federal areas of Texas. This is Texas Government Code 62.0131. The Office of Court Administration of the Texas Judicial System shall develop and maintain a model for a uniform written jury summons in this state. And so it's all in federal areas of Texas. And so then it also says in that Act of Texas in 1876, it's Section 6, and actually it's Section 7, it says all property listed for taxation between January 1st and June 1st of each year, when required by the assessors. I was wondering if someone else wanted to talk here. When required by the assessors with reference to the quantity held or owned on the first day of January of the year for which the property is required to be listed or rendered. Okay? And so they're talking about rendering property. And this here is the general real property rendition of taxable property form. It's called Form 50-141. You can do a Google search and download it yourself. It's published by the Texas Comptroller of the Public Accounts. And I have one. Let me open it up. I'll open it up. And 50-141. There we go. It was there. What happened to it? It's thinking. Oh, get real. It was there just a minute ago. I can't believe it.
That's pretty important. They don't render anybody's property.
There we go. There's the form. Right here. It's a 2-page form. You can download it online. And when you're subject to the tax, you're supposed to fill it out and submit it. And what they do is they fill it out for you. There was a lady that I met. She was living in Flower Mound, and she bought me lunch. We were talking, and she said that she'd been out of work. She was in a house and had gone through a foreclosure 10 years ago and was still in the house in Flower Mound. Okay, Flower Mound's a pretty nice area, probably a $300,000 or $400,000 house at least. Anyways, she'd been there in that house for 10 years after going through a foreclosure. and she'd been out of work. She couldn't afford to pay the $10,000 a year in property taxes. So she went down to the Tarrant County tax assessor collector and started reading the riot act to him. Who rendered my property for taxation? I'm going to sue their butt off. And they immediately came back and said, don't worry, we'll take it off the tax rolls. So that's what they do. And when you confront them about it, that's why I think I got this Montague County thieves. I think I got them. I think they're done. And I'm preparing to file something into the case that I think I got them. But anyways, we'll see. You know, you never know. I got a common law court decision. I got everything. I think they're done. Anyways,
When do you think when the clerk just fills that out on the rendering automatically?
yeah.
Would that be a felony?
Yeah, I would say so. That's official oppression. That's a bunch of that's false, fabricating evidence. That's all sorts of stuff. So for the YouTube audience, there's the document, and that's how it's done in Texas. Now, every state's going to be different. I don't know about your particular state, but that's what I'd be looking for. And so I'm in the middle of a lawsuit with County of Montague Corporation over that right now, and we'll see how it all comes out. But the judge seems to be sympathetic. He's babysitting me through the whole thing, and so we'll see what happens. There we go. So anyways, so intermediate summary. Originally, Congress intended that land would not be encumbered in any way. Property taxes were originated by an act of Congress in 1861 for U.S. citizens when they were operating under executive authority. The Homestead Act's a privilege for U.S. citizens. State statutes are actually U.S. statutes. If you used, or the bill priests and the so-called courts can presume that you used, Federal Reserve notes to pay for land, then it's not paid for. Think about it. Federal Reserve notes an IOU. We're going to talk about that next. They're assaulting you with their minor estate at 31 CFR 363.6. And so if you want to participate in that, knock yourself out, but it's a fraud. And if you participate on it, you can't claim fraud. And once you start participating in it, then your caveat emptor would be the answer I would give you is buyer beware, because you're in a contract with the devil. Anyways, don't get me going. So the Commerce Clause, it says here, in other words, Congress has exclusive legislative jurisdiction over citizens of Washington, District of Columbia, and through their plenary power nationally, plenary means dictatorship, covers those citizens, even when in one of the several states, as though the district expands for the purpose of regulating its citizens wherever they go throughout the states of the Union. There's actually a lot of cases that talk about this. National Mutual Insurance Company of the District of Columbia versus Tidewater Transfer Company, U.S. Supreme Court, 1948. So, and entity, this is the minor estate. Entity means any owner of a Treasury direct account that's not an individual. An entity is a sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation, limited liability company, or professional limited liability company trust, the estate of a decedent, or the estate of a living person, such as an incompetent or a minor. And a minor means an individual under the age of 18 years. The term minor is also used to refer to an individual who's attained the age of 18 years. Who's under the age of 18 years, but has not yet taken control of the securities contained in his or her account. And so that's what they're doing, is they're getting you into, assuming you're the minor estate, to get you under the Commerce Clause. Think about it. And so when Kavanaugh was in the Kavanaugh hearings, when he'd been appointed to the Supreme Court, they asked him. They said, can we go after a U.S. citizen in Afghanistan? And he said, yes, you can. It's because of the Commerce Clause, which means there's no common law rights. There's no common law offenses against the United States, only those acts which Congress has forbidden for penalties or disobedience of its command or crimes, which is a violation of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. And this is Clause 17. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases, whatever, over such district, not exceeding 10 miles square, as made by session of particular states, in the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. So this is Tomlin's Law Dictionary, 1856 edition. See, the minor estates created by the Sesta B Act of 1666. This is what they're talking about right here. Tomlin's Law Dictionary, 1835 edition, volume 2, under the definition of mort main. Tomlin's Law Dictionary is kind of interesting because there's no page numbers. So that's the only way that you can describe where to find this definition. It says, yet still it was found difficult to set bounds to ecclesiastical ingenuity, for when they were driven out of all their former holds, they devised a new method of conveyance, by which the lands were granted not to themselves directly, but to nominal fees to the use of the religious houses, thus distinguishing between the possession and the use, as in usufruct. Okay, this is all Roman law. And receiving the actual profits while the season of the land remained in the nominal fee, who was held by the courts of equity, then under the direction of the clergy. That's the Roman cult, folks, and how convenient, eh? They get to go and assault you with this crap, and then they get to decide whether it's real or not. To be bound in conscience to account to assess the use for the rents and emoluments of the estate. Well, that's taxes, folks. And it is to these inventions that our practitioners are indebted for the introduction of uses and trusts, the foundation of modern conveyancing. Usufruct and trusts. Okay, usufruct is actually a type of a trust. And it's in the Code of Law for the District of Columbia, 31 Stat 1432, in 1901, where it says the legal estate to be the Sesta use. Okay, so that's where it comes in the District of Columbia. That's why they want to assault you with the zip codes and get you into a federal area of Texas. See what I'm saying? That's how they do that. They play these games. And so these guys got a problem. Federal Reserve banknotes or other notes constitute a part of the common currency of the country, are recognized as good tender for money unless specifically objected to. You know, you don't have to accept them. And so dollar, the legal currency of the United States, the unit of money consisting of 100 cents, the aggregate and specific coins, which add up to $1, okay, coins. In the absence of qualifying words, it cannot mean promissory notes, bonds, or other evidences of debt. And that's 36 American Jurisprudence, 1, Money at Section 8. So banknotes, a contract. A banknote resembles a common promissory note issued by a bank or corporation authorized to act as a bank. It is, in fact, a promissory note, but such notes are not, for many purposes, to be considered as mere securities for money, but are treated as money in the ordinary course and transactions of business by the general consent. You have to agree to it. The forced loans of 1862 and 1863 in the form of legal tender notes were vital forces in the struggle for national supremacy. They formed a part of the public debt of the United States. And that's Juilliard versus Greenman, U.S. Supreme Court. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow me on True Social at Engineer Win. Don't forget to follow me on Steemit at Sovereignty International. Don't forget to like this video on YouTube. Don't forget to click the bell next to the subscribe button so you're notified that there's a new upload. And on Steemit, don't forget to vote and make your comments.
Glenn,
Yes.
what is the YouTube channel?
Sovereign Living. All one word.
Okay.
There it is right there.
Oh,
So the arrow is pointing at the bell. It hasn't been clicked. The subscribe button has been clicked because otherwise it'd be red. but it's pointing at the arrow. It's called sovereign living. At common law, only gold or silver were legal tender. This is actually a live stream right now on YouTube. If you want common law, then you must have honest measures. If you want lawful land, then you must defeat the bail priest presumptions. If you want to be a state citizen instead of a U.S. citizen slave, then you have to quit doing things that U.S. citizens do and start doing things that state citizens do. If you want to have all the rights and privileges of the land patent, then you need to bring them forward. So you have to understand it's all about giving evidence against yourself. Okay, if you didn't give that evidence against yourself, if they drug you into some place and stole your wallet and got your information, then you didn't give that evidence. So that's inadmissible as evidence. Subscription channels. I have exclusive content available on HowTube. HowTube controls the billing. It's $9.99 a month for the videos plus unlimited email consultations. But I'm not a liar. Well, I'm in an attorney. Well, I'm in a liar. But I can't tell you what I would do and where to find the forms. The only power that the New World Order Satanists have over us is through fraud and deception, and my agenda is to expose it for all our benefit, but I cannot fight all the battles. So HowTube controls the billing, though. You have to understand that, so don't send me $10 and expect me to sign you up, because I can't do it, okay? You have to go there, you have to arrange billing with them, and I don't think they accept cryptocurrencies. I think they do credit cards or something like that. I don't know. I don't do it, okay? It's all done through HowTube. That's the way it's got to be done. Some of my exclusive content is Arlington Private Information Share, Land Deed Training, Estoppel Certificates Training, Foreclosure Estoppel Certificates Training, Corporate Denial Training, Toll Roads Notice of Demand Training, Invoice Training, Notice of Void Judgment Training, Revocation of Signature Training, Third Party Witness Training, Federal Habeas Corpus Training, Revocation of Voter Registration, Criminal Complaint Training, Lawsuit Training, other training requests. I've got the Northeast Private Information Shares. Some of them are up there and some of them are in public on YouTube. All forms, files, and other instructions are available for free in my 2 private groups, pre-lists and Google groups. All exclusive content will be available on HowTube, and you can buy a subscription there. And that's the address is howtube.com, Sovereignty International. So this is the Gold Reserve Act of 1934. As used this act, the term United States means government of the United States. The term currency of the United States means, so then think about it, currency of the government of the United States means currency which is legal tender in the government of the United States, and includes United States notes and Federal Reserve notes. It also includes the gold certificates and silver certificates too. All acts and parts of acts inconsistent with any provision of the act are hereby repealed. That's 48 Stat 337. And this is 12 U.S.C. 411. Federal Reserve notes to be issued at the discretion of the Board of Governors, the Federal Reserve System, for the purpose of making advances to Federal Reserve banks through the Federal Reserve agents, as hereinafter set forth, and for no other purpose or authorized. Said notes shall be obligations of the United States, shall be receivable by all national member banks, Federal Reserve banks, for all taxes, customs, other public duties. They shall be redeemed in lawful money on demand. So no other purpose. So if you're using them, you're not authorized to use them. There is a distinction between the debt discharged and one paid. When discharged, the debt still existed, though divested of its character as a legal obligation during the operation of the discharge. You know, they lay awake at night with this crap. And so that's what happens when you use Federal Reserve notes. You discharge debt with limited liability. Promissory note is, and I think that's the last one too. It is a written promise to pay a certain sum of money at a future time unconditionally. Promissory note differs from a mere acknowledgement of debt without any promise to pay, as when a debtor gives his creditor an IOU. So it used to say on the Federal Reserve notes that you could go get some gold or silver coin. And now what they say is just this legal tender. So it's an IOU is what it is. All these Federal Reserve notes. Anyways, so that's how it works in Texas. And once you understand how it works, it can be defeated. It's not that difficult. I've got a lawsuit going on right now in federal court. I can go through, I'm actually getting ready to break it off in their state bar of Texas and break it off in their backside about some things. Yes, Jason?
Do it sideways, so they have to get it surgically removed.
There you go.
Not just like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
sideways.
Yeah, there you go. No joke. Absolutely. Any other questions?
So we can find this stuff on the Sovereign Living.
The on my YouTube channel, the videos on a YouTube channel, the PowerPoint presentation, I convert them into PDF files. Ultimately, I upload them on my website. I've got links to YouTube videos, and I've got a free files directory which has the PDF files. But this one won't be uploaded there anytime soon. At some point, I'll update it and upload all the recent PDF files. I have a webmaster, and he does all that stuff. So I just send him the stuff in a group, and so that he can do it all at once.
But to do the subscription is howto.com.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
TO, right? Howto.
Howto.com. How to, T-U-B-E. How to. Yeah.
I have a question.
You can also defeat them. Somebody else had a question first? Go ahead.
Yeah. Question is, what did you do with this land in Montague County originally that culminated in this problem? Did you, in your view, did you do everything correctly and they just ignored it? That's question one. Question two is, what is the proper process for two things: taking title to new property purchasing, and one, if somebody has property now that they're paying taxes, is there a way to eliminate it without having to go through all of your situation with
that sounds like a really drawn out answer. I had to use the restroom. I'll be back in a minute, then we can go through that, okay?
One of Melanie's fraternity friends is trying to protect her house from getting stolen, and they have the auctions on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
On the
Courthouse steps.
yeah, the old courthouse. They're on Weatherford Street. Anyways, they just took her to jail.
Took Melanie to jail?
No, they took her friend Tony to jail. You know Tony?
I don't think
She was up there protesting the thing because they have her house on the auction block right now.
What would the charge be to put her in
A
jail?
few of them are called treaty powers.
Yeah, there's a precedent.
Steve ran into a cop car. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
No, different.
Steve? No.
Like, it depends on how Paris was a hub.
He's looking at gas prices and then wandered into the lane. I
So
guess.
that's why there's
Yeah.
a treaty powers for other things too. But the one
Other treaties were,
done
He
in
was just
Paris,
looking.
we
I
still
don't know if
call
he's on phone or
treaty
not.
of Paris many times.
okay.
So.
But he had failure to appearance, right?
Yes.
I would say it's prior.
He's got a lot of tickets.
There's a title of a treaty for.
He's actually.
Let's find out. There's an official title,
Well, it's okay.
He's texting.
So it's the same thing.
which I have
When he's on the
copies
road,
of.
he's
So I
texting?
ordered certain.
No,
items
just that he
that
runs
the
lines.
can send you
Oh, he does?
5 copies
It's
of
not-
those.
I'm not using it
They're-
mine,
they're-
but
they're-
I'll-
You
I'm right behind the cop.
It was the sheriff deputy that pulled him over. It was not, the sheriff didn't do anything to him. But, yeah, I thought, you're not gonna try to get that.
Oh, it's,
Word,
yeah,
you know,
multi-garden school,
he
it
did
was
it.
just enough to pass.
He did what?
Good slides.
Thank
No,
you.
this is on purpose?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
There's no check, you text me.
he habitually does, it's not just one or two.
We can see.
He does it about every light. You're right.
Data took-
And look real carefully, make sure it's clear they don't go.
Why is he doing that?
I don't know, I'm talking about that.
His ego's a little inflated.
Right.
So, did he call you today from jail?
No, that was Kathy.
A lot of people like being
So what is she
slaves, they don't
doing?
mind having, they
Uh,
don't
that
mind walking
she's-
the way they're told to walk and do the things they're told.
She wasn't in the car.
No,
Right?
Does she know that
If
he
you're
gets
free,
a little
the good news
nuts?
is you're free to do
I'll
that. That's
protect
what
you
you want to do. We bless you and let you do
because, you
it.
know, she said a lot of
Try to
times,
convert anybody to becoming a.
she's trying to stay away from
No,
that.
I understand.
I hope
Makes
so.
her-
Sometimes it's important.
Steve's very
But
persistent.
sometimes it's,
Yeah, he's telling everybody, you know,
you know,
pray that God brings us together. We're meant to be together. Blah, blah.
He had somebody that was running the church.
Right, so you
That was,
can't
that was,
get around.
He's a bit.
the prophet
Get
Daniel
around
said.
not being a slave.
So now you think
So
we're
you're
not.
a slave to-
And we're a slave to each other. The whole point of the
And then I
Revolutionary
told
War
him,
was we
he said, he had to put out the contract, and I said, well,
you and me. So
the Bible
it
says
was
that,
just, we didn't like to be
you know,
overruled
the
by
great man comes to his other wife,
and
Right,
go back
so
to
some of
her.
the mindset change.
And he said, you know, what he said,
You do
that's
have
what it
to
says.
fight.
You already been there, you go find that first wife.
That's
He
fine.
said, well, I can't do that.
Unless she's been remarried. You're never married again if they remarry.
right, but
Because
see,
then it's
we want to do what we're
Well, she
doing.
didn't
They
give
bring
the
the
other
house,
wife, she
they
didn't
bring the
give anybody
house.
else either.
No.
Yeah, but it's always
Did
good
Steve tell you
at least have a good understanding.
what charges they have on?
And I don't think I.
They don't have it booked yet. They don't have it.
So let's think about this
Some of these
logically.
things help me, you know.
Kathy called you and said that because he was looking at some gas
3 years
prices,
ago, much of
he
what I
admitted
spoke of
police
today,
His eyes got focused on that.
So it seems like.
Brent, he get in.
Okay, so I'm back. So what I would say, first of all, is that the real guru on land patents is a guy by the name of Ron Gibson. He lives up in Oregon. He's written a couple books about how to bring forward all the rights and privileges of your land patent. And he's the guru, and I would never, I've done a bunch of them, and I've met people that their land has never been on the tax rolls. They just passed it on in their family. And so I know people that have absolute title to their land. And some states are more difficult than others. Some states are easy, like Arizona is actually quite easy. But even there, you're going to run into corruption. A lot of it depends on the corruption of the government officials. So mine has defects. There's no doubt about it. Matter of fact, I've done a title search. You're supposed to do a title search. You're supposed to get a meets and bounds legal description. And sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. This land, I had a meets and bounds legal description, but when I needed to record the land patent, I couldn't find it. So I went and didn't use it. I actually paid a surveyor when I bought that land to come out and survey it and give me a meets and bounds legal description. I found it since then, but too late now. So those defects, okay? There's no doubt there's defects. In hindsight, the one thing I learned from Ron Gibson is you call it a bill of conveyance, okay? And that nails it. I didn't want to call it a deed. I didn't know what to call it, quite frankly, so I was just trying to get it as close to common law as I could think of. And I called it a grant deed bill of exchange. But I did use silver coin, converted silver to land. I've seen court cases that talk about that, use those phrases, those terminologies. And so I converted silver to land. The problem is they recognize me as being a sovereign citizen, and that's what I'm getting ready to break off in their butt in this a brief that I'm getting ready to file. And maybe I'll go through that, because there's actually a website called targetedjustice.com where they go through and show you, and they have affidavits by, like, for example, Ted Gunderson, who was a former FBI special agent in charge of the Los Angeles Olympics, and saying that, yes, this stuff is what has been going on for a long time, and where they refuse to investigate or prosecute crimes, felonies against certain people that is targeted. You see what I'm saying? And so I filed criminal complaints against them, and nothing happened. And they figured it out. Okay, I filed a mandamus with the Second Court of Appeals, and the clerk refused to accept it because I'm a vexatious litigant. And they sent them a letter and told them that they were refusing to accept it. Sent it to them. And so it's like, anyway, so I'm bringing this all up in federal court, and I'm suing that clerk. and I'm suing the clerk in their Montague County. They refuse to accept my filings. Yes.
When I discovered there was 60 police officers, the tax assessor, tax collector had no oath in the municipality, I forced them to get an oath, the city clerk and the city administrator. Question is, I told them if I had property and you wanted to charge me taxes, it would be a violation of your oath. Even if I had agreed at some point and had paid taxes on that property, I'm now stopping and it's a violation of your oath of the Constitution of the United States. Do you think that would that possibly work?
You know, why not? But you got to use their codes. I mean, that's what they're using is their codes. And so I agree. I mean, you go to McCullough versus Maryland, it says that a state citizen cannot yield the sovereignty which will extend over them. So even if there is what they think to be a contract, it's invalid. Okay, it's an unconscionable contract, is what it is.
The reason I point that out is many of us might own property or be paying taxes, and it's like, what do I do now? Do I have to sell it and buy something else using gold and silver coin?
In Texas, I would just go down there and I'd read the riot act to them and tell them who rendered this land for taxation. I'm going to sue their butt off, just like that lady did.
And then if they deny it, then you just proceed.
Then you sue them.
Right.
Well, first of all, you start doing discovery, right? Just do a public information request. I want to see who rented this property, and they got to disclose it.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Yes.
And if they don't, then that's another crime. Yes, Bill.
I've got an opposing question for what we're talking about. And that is, we've been talking about documents and procedures and the detail and all the requirements we have to have. What I'm concerned about in that regard is credibility. Just plain credibility. Everything is so corrupt that nothing is of any value. Documents, procedures, you end up in jail is the only solution.
Well, you know, I understand your frustration. There's no doubt about it. But they're not all crooks, okay? I believe we do have a lot of good, honorable people that work for us.
The bad thing about it is it's not the crooks that's bad. It's the dumb, being dumb, D-U-M-B. People not knowing what they have to do. And they just follow into whatever they're told to do, and they do it.
Well, that's the problem, is all these brain dead idiots just cave into it.
Absolutely.
So they expect you to be a brain dead idiot and cave into it too. But so that's why you have to bring an action against them, file a lawsuit against them, and that's why I did that, because they essentially stole my land and were demanding money to get it back. And so I actually had to pay more money in property taxes than I paid to buy the land in the first place.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and so it ain't over. I guarantee you. And so I think this judge is sympathetic, and so we'll see. That's all I can say.
That's one case. I'm trying to talk about the credibility of the government, which is more than the government. It's really the credibility of the people.
Well, that's why we have
don't
this
have any
class.
sense to take care of it. And so you're talking about specifically what you can do. I'm talking about the people. How are we going to change the people? This is the problem.
Well, and it goes back to, have you ever heard of the Norman Dodd testimony?
I've heard of it, I don't know what it is.
Norman Dodd was a guy who was a banker in the 40s, okay? And he was invited to come and speak to the House Committee on Un-American Activities in the 60s. And he told his story. You gotta listen to it, you gotta download it. You can download it, it's available online. I've got some of my videos. He says that his job was to go and investigate the tax-exempt foundations and find out that they were trying to overthrow the Constitution. And he went and talked to them. And they said basically that our agenda is to promote socialism in America. And they talked about, they said, sure, go ahead, look at our records. You're welcome to go and look through our records all you want. And he had this girl that went through there, and she was so crushed she became emotionally disturbed because of the stuff that she was seeing in the Ford Foundation and Carnegie Foundation. And what they did was they went and they said, first of all, we got to get control of the State Department, we got to get control of the education system. And so they said, do you think the Guggenheim Foundation will appoint a professor to a university like Harvard that we recommend? And they said, and they approached the Guggenheim Foundation and they said, yeah, we will. And so then they went and started appointing professors to these Harvard and all these law schools that were going to promote their agenda, okay? Redefine history and all the rest of it. And so they essentially took over the education system by doing that. Why do you think that they have, kids in school right now are learning that 1 and 1 is 3?
Yeah.
It's because they took over the education system. But having said that, it can all be reversed, okay? And that's why I think there's regime change happening right now with Donald Trump, because we're in the middle of a communist insurrection right now. And Donald Trump, the elements of the military saw that coming, that when they killed Kennedy back in the 60s, they started planning and making plans on how to deal with it. And so all their plans are coming together right now. And so there's elements of the military. I mean, you got to understand, the U.S. Army and the U.S. Navy were both created before the Declaration of Independence. And so their oath is to the Constitution, and they take that oath seriously. Yes, there's crooks in there, but there's a lot of them that aren't. They're good, honorable people, and we have a lot of good, honorable people working in the government. The communists want us to lose confidence in our government.
They want you to
They want us to lose confidence in our institutions. And so.
But this is much bigger than that. Much, much bigger. 1980s, I was dealing with the city of Bedford. The crap they were playing games. I walked through a building and they were playing games. They quickly put everything together and act like they didn't.
No doubt.
In the 80s.
I agree. There's no doubt. But again, it's up to us. If I would have known what I know now, if I saw that, then I would have filed a lawsuit against them. And for misappropriation of public funds.
And that's the problem.
File criminal
It would
complaints.
take a lawsuit to do it. That's what's wrong with
Well, you file criminal complaints against them for
But we
misappropriation.
can't do that. It doesn't work. We've been doing it for years. It doesn't work.
Actually it does. Okay, and with my criminal complaints, you're right. They're ignoring them. But now I'm suing them over it. And this judge seems to be sympathetic. We'll see what happens. That's all I can say.
But that's
well, whatever. They want you to lose.
Thousands.
We have to. I agree. It's a huge job, but we have to keep confidence that there's good, honorable people that are in the government that are gonna do the right thing. They're not all crooks.
I'm saying that's not the problem. The problem is the credibility of the people not being crooks, so they don't understand that there is, like what we're talking about now. You're not understanding what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. They're
logical.
dumbed down. They've had fluorine in the water. They have chemtrails.
Oh, but that's not what the problem is. The problem is that it is happening and nothing's being done, and it's been happening for years,
Actually,
for decades.
there's major changes that are happening. Robert Kennedy Jr. has just been approved by the Senate committee
Yes.
for Secretary of Health, and he has actually sued 7 different pharmaceutical companies and won in all 7 cases, and so I think he is going to make huge changes, but that's only part of it. It's got to start somewhere, okay? And I think that it is starting. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. There's no doubt about
It's
it.
supposed to be.
We have to take our country back. And so there's going to be a lot of people that are probably not going to survive. And so generally speaking, the people like us are the ones that survive, the ones that are on top of it and at least aware of the problem. There's 3 kinds of people, right? There's those that make things happen, there's those that watch things happen, and there's those that wonder what happened. And so at least we're the ones that are watching it happen.
We watch it and we make it.
Well, some of it we're making it. That's right. And so, that you have to understand, bring up the right issues, and that's why, I think I was really born for this. I think this case with the taxes is going to be a huge case, and it's going to bring all sorts of good things that are going to come out of it. But I don't know. I think that it's starting to look that way, and so we'll see it once it's done. Yes, Francine.
There's a big thing, and it's very close to becoming real, and that's Trump forming, making not only America the leader for crypto, but he's coming up with a czar for crypto. So with that in mind, past cases, including one that comes to mind, and I think you know which one I'm talking about, do you think those type of individuals will be exonerated or even released from jail, those that have tried to create their own coins, sovereign coins, and the bad guys didn't like it, put them in jail?
I don't know what's going to happen. I can tell you that they're talking about putting cryptocurrencies under the Commodities Futures Trading Commission instead of the Securities and Exchange Commission. The courts have ruled that Ripple is not a security. There's a guy that we're trying to help right now, and that's in jail in Chicago, and we're trying to help him, and so all I can say is, we'll see what happens. I think that there's going to be some favorable things that'll happen. I don't know. I can't possibly say, but I think that generally speaking, that it's going to be all positive. We're not going to win every battle, but when you start winning most of them, then that's when the tide turns, and so. But it's 107 talks about the ship of state. The ship of state is a very slow moving, it's huge ship, and it takes a lot to get it turned to go in a different direction, and so it's a huge thing to happen, and I think that the elements of the military can't do it themselves. That's the reason they needed Trump, because he needed to expose all of this stuff, and that's what he's been doing for the last, exposing the lawfare, exposing all the stuff these communists were doing, so that people would see it all over the place, and it's just painfully obvious. Before Trump was, when he left the White House, shortly afterwards, I got an email and said, Trump's going to get indicted, but don't worry, it's all part of the show. And then just before his first indictment, he put out a meme and he said, I am your retribution. If you've been wronged by the deep state, I'm going to go after them when I get back in power. And so he's jerking their chain. Think about it. That's what he's doing. And that's what he's always been doing, is just jerking their chain, getting them to expose themselves. And, what I think is going to happen is, what I'm hearing is that we're eventually going to go to war with China. And that's not going to be a pleasant thing. That's going to be really, really ugly. Okay? China is very, we built them ourselves to be very powerful. And there's Cliff High said that in 2 or 3 years ago, he said that China had opened 2 colleges to train People's Liberation Army officers, just the officers, okay? And they're training 35,000 every quarter, a couple of years ago, okay? So think about that. 35,000 officers. An officer, basically a lieutenant, might have a platoon of like 15 soldiers or something like that, or maybe 25 or something. I don't know what a platoon, what an officer, a lieutenant would oversee, but these are just the officers, okay? And so it's like China's getting ready to go to war, okay? And in the Bible it says that the kings of the East are going to come at with the army of 200 million men, and so I don't know how it's all going to play out, but it's going to be ugly. It's going to be really, really ugly, and that's all I can say. There's stuff that I can talk about that I don't really want to talk about right now. Yes.
So Canada, does China have a big influence on Canada?
Yes.
Yes, they do, big time.
Big time.
I can tell you that Cliff High said recently in a video that, matter of fact, it was a couple of days ago in a video, and this is what his data sets are saying. He said that there's going to be sometime this month or maybe next month, there's going to be a bunch of people that are get killed, and it's going to turn out they're all Antifa. They get killed, and they're doing something they're not supposed to do, and they get in a firefight or something, they get killed. And they're all Antifa, and it scares the shit out of anybody that's Antifa.
Like here in the
Yeah,
States.
here,
Oh,
for sure.
Antifa killing civilians.
Yeah, and he said that there's going to be foreign officers, not Canadians, who are going to be killed coming across the Canadian border. Okay, and it's going to get. He said that the next 6 months are going to be really chaotic. He said that we're in the melee right now. The melee is when, like, he compares it to Custer. Okay, and the first thing when he talked about melees, he said when you have a battle going on, you have a general sitting up on a hill from a distance, and he's got officers and lieutenants, and he'll tell the soldiers to move this troop over here and move these over here, and to engage the battle. And so he compares it to Custer's last stand, because what happened is the Indians found Custer and they killed him, and so they had no leadership. And that's why they killed Custer's troops. They killed them all because they had no leadership. It was a melee. It was chaos. They didn't know what to do.
So would Canada allow China to just be on the border and stuff?
Absolutely.
Really?
They say there's 50, 60,000 troops in Canada, Chinese troops.
Already?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, shit.
So yeah. And the same in Mexico. Okay. They found, have you ever heard of the what's that gap, the Darien Gap in Panama?
Yeah.
They said there's a couple communities in that gap. One of them is full of people from South America, but there's another one that's all Chinese, and they're all young, and they're in their like 20s, and young men and young women, and you're not, and they're hostile. You can't go there.
Okay, like how many?
Yeah. What's his name? What's his name?
Did Gaga?
No, used to work at Fox.
That's Sager or whatever his name is.
No,
What position? I'm sorry.
he had a nightly show on Fox, and he got kicked off of there.
Headset.
No,
Oh, he had a show.
I have his book actually. I've seen it.
it's
His name, but he
it's
was a lawyer.
no, he wasn't a lawyer. He was
Congressman?
Bill
No, he
O'Reilly?
huh?
Bill O'Reilly?
No. And I'll think of his name here. Anyways, he did a show where he talked about the Darien Gap.
Glenn Beck?
Huh?
Glenn Beck? Or
No.
Okay. It's okay.
I'll think of it in a minute. But he did a show where he talked about the Darien Gap. And the Darien Gap, what the Darien Gap is 60 miles where there's no highway between, basically between the Panama Canal and south to, I think it's Bolivia, that's on the south side. There's 60 miles where there's no highway or anything, and so people have to walk through that area. And there's Tucker Carlson.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Tucker Carlson did a show on that. And so when I'm not thinking about it, it'll come to me,
that's the way it goes.
But anyways, so how many troops are in the country? Okay, Cliff High said that there's a lot of them that are here. Okay,
The Chinese.
and they're going to start doing things. That's why the chaos. Okay, that's why all the stuff is happening. The car bombs outside of Trump's hotel, all this other stuff. Okay, because these people that have infiltrated in. That's why Trump's got to get them out of here as quick as possible. But the real enemies are going to stay. Okay, because they're going to go to war, and we're going to have to kill them. Yes.
Over the last 2 weeks, the incidents we've observed with the planes, what are your thoughts about that?
Right. Well, there's something. There was 2 crashes. There's one on the 29th, which was in D.C., where that American Airlines flight crashed into the helicopter. It's, I listened to a 107 video recently, and he said that that's very suspicious, but it's too early to say, whether it's something more than just suspicious. But there was also a crash of a small airplane in Philadelphia, a small, and so that one, I don't know about that one either. So there's going to be people investigating these flights. I've heard, I don't know how they can do it, but I've heard that that Army helicopter might have been taken over, and externally. I don't know if they have those kinds of systems in a helicopter.
They do.
But do they? Are you sure?
Yeah.
I worked on helicopters all my life, and so not helicopters in particular, airplanes. I know they have them on Boeings on the fly-by-wire because they're fly-by-wire. There's no cables, but I'm not sure that they do them on helicopters. You got me, because they got the collective and they got the cyclic, and those are pretty well. There's not much between the stick and the controls
The
because.
Apache is.
Sorry,
I think the Apache is.
fly-by-wire.
Yeah, because they have to have the helmet and all that too.
Sorry.
They have to have the helmet so that the gun moves and all that. Yeah, I think
Right.
they
Well,
fly by
that just controls the gun.
wire. Right. But
I
I think they fly by wire as well.
I don't know. I need to see more because flying a helicopter is a little more complicated than.
Yeah, but it's a
fiction.
large helicopter. It's not a.
It was a 60 Sikorsky 60, which is a pretty big helicopter.
Right.
And so it's a fully articulated rotor head that makes it easier to fly because the rotor head is fully articulated. But they still have to pull the collective, and they still have the yoke. I don't know, and they still have to counteract torque, and that's a judgment call. With the pedals.
Yeah, but they got automated systems with gyros and stuff like that that can.
I don't know.
Do
And
that.
then,
I don't know.
just a couple of days ago, 3 or 4 days ago, in Houston, that plane about to take off on the tarmac, 2 engines, one at each side, came fire. And they just in time were able to abort the takeoff, and on the tarmac, they actually evacuated the passengers. But a passenger did videotape the whole thing, and you could clearly see the engine's on fire. And they were able to get off the plane in time because they had not left.
That's interesting. I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah.
But
It just happened.
that's interesting. It's unusual. I've never heard. You always hear about engines catching fire or something happening. Usually, there's something that happens inside the engine. You know what I mean? I've worked on heavy jets, and so for an engine to catch fire, there's got to be something going on there. That maybe a leak or something like that. But anyways, so they were able to abort the flight. At least it was 4-engine airplane.
2.
And both of them.
Yeah, both of them. Both of them. Caught
Both of them
fire.
were on fire.
One of the passengers videotaped it. Everyone was freaking out, but they had not left the runway, so they were able to abort the flight, stop the flight.
Yeah.
Some people went out through, I guess, one of those things that look like a floating.
Yeah, the emergency exit.
Yeah, that.
Emergency slide.
That's the emergency exit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the slide. It's the slide. It's the emergency exit.
And they got
How
out.
big an airplane was it?
I don't know, but I'm gonna guess it was at least a 737.
Right. Well, that would be consistent. Anyways, with Boeing and their quality problems, who knows what's going on there? I'll tell you, Boeing's got some real quality problems. Was it a new airplane or near new?
It didn't say it was new.
Okay. Yes, Jason.
My friend, he's worked for Airbus and Boeing and Lockheed Skunk Works. He's just like, people come to him looking for him, looking for him to do aerospace stuff. And he said he went to work for this company in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they wanted him to basically stamp this piece of equipment, and he knew it wasn't cured right for the temperature, what they were doing and stuff. And they fired him over it. And they were a subcontractor of Boeing. So this is like a systematic
like an assemblage.
Yeah, there's like a systematic type thing. There are people that are making the parts for Boeing, or you're like, oh no, you gotta stamp it.
I've been in positions like that where they would they'd start yelling at you and calling you names and all sorts of stuff because you wouldn't buy their hatchet job. I used to call it a hatchet job.
Right.
And I've been fired over that too. But you know, you get used to that, and you go down and you find some other place to work. If they want you to do that kind of crap, you don't want to work there anyways.
Right. They were a contractor for Boeing, so it shows you it's like not only the company but the people they're hiring to build parts for.
Right. Yeah. No doubt. Yeah. Yes.
Did you hear that Indonesia just joined BRICS, which made China even stronger?
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
They did it 2 days ago.
They're saying, like Ed was saying here earlier, Ed's left, there's going to be a crash real soon.
Yeah.
Okay?
They're going to blame it on Trump.
I'm hearing that from all sorts of places.
They were talking about that being January 31st, but yeah.
They're talking, actually what I'm hearing is April.
Yeah.
And think about it, April is a satanic blood sacrifice, Easter, you know what I mean? And so that might be the day or something around there that they might decide to do it. But it's going to be a really, really bad crash. So, you know, that's, I don't know. We'll see. We're a captive audience. But anyways, I guess that's about it for now. Thanks everybody on YouTube. I'm looking at the chat and see what. I don't see anything. It's important that we don't lose confidence in our institutions, and there's a lot of good people and honorable people in the government, and the communists want us to lose confidence in that, and when we do that, they win. So we have to just keep going and find someone that's going to be honorable. And there's a lot of honorable people. I think that Trump is really trying to make some positive changes, and so I guess we'll see. Anyways, I think that's about it for the live stream. I'm going to stop streaming right now. We have to be careful not to promote what the communists want us to do. They want anarchy. They want us killing each other. And that'll promote everything they want to do.
I heard Antifa was actually the brown shirts from